As I mentioned, before a vaccine comes and become widely acceptable, before it's proven to be effective, people are comfortable using it, we're not going to get a revival of air travel. But in the meantime, you can't stand still. You can't stand still, especially an aviation hub like us, like Hong Kong and other places. So you do need to put your chess pieces in place and be ready for the time when air travel recover. You are there to receive it and be able to revive quicker than other hubs and competitors around the world. And that's why we are doing all this. Not because we expect a big jump in aviation. The Hong Kong-Singapore air travel bubble, I think they will see some jump, at least from one sector. But the rest is really keeping the posture, keeping the conversation going, keeping that tension between health and travel and opening up of the borders there in the world. I saw some of this narrative online that they say, yeah, we are not so good at negotiation, so therefore the treatment is different. It doesn't work like that. You work enough in international negotiations, you realize that international negotiations, and for that matter, any negotiation, is not about fighting for positions or trying to push your negotiating position forward. Once you get into that, you wouldn't have a good deal. In a good deal, both sides negotiate for your interests. In our case, I will not rule out that one day we may also want to do an on-arrival test. Yeah. At some point, we may decide that it may be a better posture for the whole world that we do an on-arrival test. I wouldn't rule it out. The agreement doesn't stop us from doing it. Yeah. It doesn't stop Hong Kong, it doesn't stop us. So I think it's a fairer and a better agreement that way. The process was fairly simple. We were thinking of opening up safely to places that have gotten the virus under control. So at the same time, Hong Kong is thinking of the same. So Secretary Edward Yao announced that they intend to establish air travel bubble with a series of countries. I think there were 11 countries, Singapore is one of them. And so I thought this is like-minded, so I responded positively. As it turns out, we still need some interagency work on both sides. So I think we quickly got that done. Of course, we welcome tourists, or travelers, business travelers. I understand some journalists are coming their way too. We welcome all of them. This has always been Singapore's welcoming posture to the world. So of course they'll bring some spending power, some economic activities, but these are relatively minor compared to the bigger picture that this ultimately is a one-of-its-kind travel bubble and a border opening arrangement between two aviation centres. I'm hopeful too. I mean, if you look at the countries and places that we have opened up unilaterally, these are places where the virus is under control. Incidence rate is equal or better than us. So these are natural partners to have air travel bubbles with. As I mentioned, I think it's critical that this one is done well for both Hong Kong and Singapore. Then we can hold it up as to tell the world that, you know, we keep thinking there's a trade-off between health and opening up of borders. There is a fundamental trade-off. But when we are looking at opening up to countries and places that have kept the virus under control with very low incidence rate, you can dissolve that trade-off, as we have done. And I think this is what we are trying to demonstrate. And if we can, I hope these countries and places will come on board.